Civil rights leaders are asking the incoming administration to consider creating a new role in the White House specifically focused on racial justice. Bloomberg Quick Take reporter Jennifer Zabasaja is here with more. Jen?
Yeah, Tim, that suggestion was made in a meeting between civil rights leaders and the president-elect and vice president-elect Tuesday. Derek Johnson, president and CEO of the NAACP, he was key in that meeting coming together, and we're really happy to welcome him now to Quick Take. Derek, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for the opportunity.
So I want to talk to you first about this meeting that you had on Tuesday. Why did you determine that it was essential for the administration to have a role specifically focused on racial equity?
Well, we were looking at what will corporations do in this economy. And some of the most successful corporations, we have seen a trend of diversity and inclusion officers being added to the C-suite, reporting to president and CEOs out of the respect and understanding of their diverse customer base. And with the federal government, you have a very similar scenario. How do we put someone as a senior advisor to the president, positioned with a portfolio to carry out what he has already identified as one of his pillar priorities, which is racial equity? We think it's good to move our nation into the future. It would lean into the creativity and the diversity of who we are as Americans. It would allow us to begin to participate at levels in which we can add value to the economy because you have a stronger workforce as a result of that. And we can break through some of the divisiveness and tribalism we've seen built up over the last 4 years.
Yeah, and I mean, you put on the NAACP website that this role, you would call it the National Advisor on Racial Justice, Equity, and Advancement. So I wonder how much you talked to the transition team about how you envision how this person and this team would operate in the administration once they take office.
But we shared with them what we've seen in corporations and how this could be of value to this administration. That if the priority is across the entirety of the administration, someone should own the portfolio to advise the president so that all of the cabinet members in the executive branch as a whole really understand the priority that's been placed here. This is very similar to what has just been created in terms of climate. With the appointment of former Senator John Kerry. And if that is a priority equal to this racial equity as a priority, it would allow for us as citizens to really appreciate the diverse nation that we are in.
And did the team seem receptive to this idea?
It was an open dialogue. It's an ongoing communication. It's the first time they had heard it. And I look forward to ongoing conversations with the administration.
Yeah, and I wonder, do you have someone in mind for that position? Would it be yourself?
Oh, absolutely not. You know, one of the things I wanted to make sure we did when we walked into that meeting is focus on policy, focus on priorities, not people. If we get the right priorities in order, and we understand the policies that we need to address or tackle, the right people would appear just out of conversation because you have so many good people who are well qualified, competent, and able to maneuver for this current administration.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, we've seen the transition team really in the past few weeks follow through on some of their commitments, right, to appoint people to top-level cabinet positions. We saw Marcia Fudge, just yesterday coming out as a nominee for HUD secretary, and also Lloyd Austin, as a defense secretary. What more did you tell the transition team that you want to see from these top-level cabinet positions? I mean, as you said, it's not just about putting a Black person in the room, right? It's about the priorities that they are talking about with the administration.
And for the NAACP, we kept it there. We want to talk about how the president-elect can really execute effectively the vision he laid out to voters on the campaign trail, the speech that he provided after it was obvious he was going to win, and him establishing racial equity as a priority. We celebrated the words we heard during the campaign. Now we want to be a part of providing some input on how we can actualize it. If no one owns the portfolio, the work cannot be properly measured. And we want to have a successful outcome. In order for us to move into a future that looks more inclusive and respectful for the differences that we bring to the table as a diverse nation, we must start a healing process not in words, but in action. And actions must be done through the work, and someone must own that portfolio.
And did discussions come up about the potential attorney general? Because that will be a part of the discussion as well, right?
There was discussion about that. And once again, we talked about priorities and process. We laid out very clearly, particularly Shirley Eiffel, who's the head of the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. We need someone who can walk into the office day one and understand the building. We need someone who can build morale and the confidence of the existing career staff that's there, because many of them actually feel beat up on. We need someone to understand the many issues that's confronting this nation and affording equal protection under the law, to push back against the level of domestic terrorism that we're seeing bubble up across the country, to address public corruption that has been so pervasive with this current administration, and to right-size the confidence of the American people in our ability to have a system that is just and open and fair. Some of that has eroded over the last 4 years. So we need someone who can walk in day one and restore those things.
Do you see that potentially based on the short list of potential Biden attorney generals?
Well, in my opinion, it should be someone who've worked in DOJ at the highest levels and understand the many doors that's in the building. It's a huge building. They provide many functions, and it cannot be someone who would take 6 months on the job training. It must be someone who can walk in day one and understand what needs to get done and the personnel that they have to line up to get it done.
And, I want to pivot slightly, Derek. I mean, because I know you talk so much about corporate America and racial equity in corporate America. And we have seen corporate America sort of respond to the calls from consumers to address this. But, we're seeing this at the highest level today. Mellody Hobson was named as she will be a co-chair of the Starbucks board. But what's your message to corporate America to not just address diversity at the highest ranks, but also to push for racial equity and racial equity amongst everyone?
I mean, it's essential. Henry Ford's statement, despite some of his worldviews, was to pay workers more so more workers can buy vehicles. We must invest in more of the community as a whole so that we have more people in the marketplace who are strong consumers. We can no longer try to benefit one part of society and neglect another part of society and expect our economy to grow. We must create the conditions where the best and the most talented individuals are provided with the access and the opportunity to grow and expand. No one come out the womb ready to be an executive. People go through corporate realities where they have mentorships, which leads to sponsorships, which leads to executive positions, which actually leads to managing portfolios and serving on boards. That should be opened up for everyone. And you would be surprised the type of talent that's out there that's untapped because of the way we used to work in the past. Corporations should be looking towards a future that's much more diverse, is global in nature, and is full of talent right here in the backyard of the United States.
And how do they make immediate changes right now as they go into 2021 to do that?
Decide that change is needed. There is no need for any other study. There's no need to consider it. Once you wake up and say it's time to make a change, then that's the first step. It's not very hard. There is talent all across the landscape in many areas, and you can tap someone to start the process. Critical thinking skills is a must for anyone who steps into these spaces, but you got to identify people who you can sponsor so they can begin to own a portfolio and grow a portfolio so you know that they're ready to serve in the C-suite. And more importantly, you have to identify and tap people and grow them over time within the corporate environment. And what you don't have internally, it exists externally. You just have to go to the places where they are.
Right. And as you mentioned, there's been enough studies. There's no need to talk so much anymore. It's time for action. Right. And,
That's correct.
The biggest stories the moment they happen from around the globe. Subscribe to Bloomberg Quick Take now for insight in an instant.